Upper Hunter by-election, a few weeks away in New South Wales. Why does it matter? Apart from anything else, it's for majority government, all right? Literally think about this. In the same way that that if there was a by-election right now in federal politics, it'd be about majority government if it is a government-held seat. Big deal, right? Well, of course, Gladys Berejiklian and the government in New South Wales is sort of saying, we're probably going to lose. Now, I think in part that's because, remember way back when all of those abortion changes that seemed to make no sense whatsoever about why the urgency? That's because Alex Greenwich, the bloke who inherited the inner city seat from Clover Moore, well, he's already said, I'm going to back the government. I'll keep them in power. So are we going to see here, Joel Fitzgibbon, a scenario where we've got Matt Keane who can get what he wants in the upper house with the Greens, and in the lower house, the lefty Liberals are going to go through Alex Greenwich to get their shopping list of stuff that presumably a Nationals MP wouldn't be willing to vote for to provide a majority on the floor of the House?
It's pretty extraordinary, Paul, that Gladys Berejiklian has pretty much written off a seat that the Labor Party has never held. That's the most extraordinary part about it, and I suspect she's happy to lose Upper Hunter because that will give her one less nat in the coalition, in the joint party room, which would make her happy. But it's an extraordinary situation, and Labor's a bit of a chance there. Everyone's scrambling for underdog status, of course, and Labor's entitled to claim it. But it's going to be an interesting contest with both Labor, the Nats, and the Shitters and Fishers, and potentially One Nation getting a sizeable share of the vote.
Well, this is the thing. You can see sort of 20 to 25% for any one of those four options, and then how all of the preferences pull together. Now, remember, in the past, shooters have backed Labor when it comes to the Eden Monero by-election. We know that they don't have a good relationship at all with the government, so presumably, if you can get Labor, Greens, shooters together, you might end up with the victory there. Or whether there's a big chunk of Conservative vote that exists there already and One Nation preference, it is going to be fascinating to see which way it falls. But again, local Nationals candidate that was pre-selected said, and I quote here, won't be won or lost on coal. Oh, it's only the biggest employer in the region. Our great mate Gabriella Power was in that part of Australia today. She had a chance to talk to the normal people of the Upper Hunter. What do they think the issues are?
For Singleton, a bypass is certainly one of the big issues, and one of the issues that creates a lot of problems, particularly during school pickups and drop-offs.
Oh, look, obviously the bypass and, other local issues, but that's the big topic, I think, of conversation.
Education and health is always pretty top of mind.
I think the issue in the Hunter is the roads. The roads are by far the biggest problem that we have.
Jobs, employment, the future.
Well, good luck working out. Now, they always seem to be the general shopping list of things that people talk about here. But Bronwyn, again, the games that always go on in New South Wales, where we saw the nonsense with Malcolm Turnbull, the ghost this week, right? So Matt Keane is able to run to the far left on energy by jumping in with the Greens, and it feels like other people in the government are going to run to the far left because they're going to get Alex Greenwich to help them get them over the line.
Correct. I mean, it was a farce, wasn't it, to see the unappointment of Malcolm Turnbull. I mean, and you could say that Turnbull was the organ grinder and Keane was the monkey, whereas he wanted to portray it the other way around. But the truth of the matter is that's the way it is. Now, this will be about coal. And Malcolm Turnbull lost the leadership of the Liberal Party over his green energy policies twice, and now he's lost it another position. It's his third time, and all the backflips that have gone on is because this by-election is all about coal, and it's all about energy. And how often do we have to say it? If we are going to become more self-resilient, we have to have cheap power, cheap, reliable power, not subsidised intermittent power. And so this is a very serious by-election. I preferred my original concept, that Mark Latham should run for One Nation. If he won, he'd then get another One Nation person in the upper house. If he lost, he could go right back into the upper house, so there's no risk.
But if you allowed to do that? It's not like that resigning because you've got a government job and all that
But
stuff.
letting him go back in.
Okay.
And then he could come into the lower house, then he could have a rapprochement with the Labor Party and say, well, you're hopeless, I'll lead you and you'll go my direction. I think that's a much better scenario.
Now, that is some Machiavellian games there, Rowan. I'm loving all of that. Look, anything that gets Mark Latham closer to power, all in on it. His stint in the New South Wales Parliament is amazing to watch, because what is always the case is when the two powerful teams decide to agree, and the two powerful teams are run by a certain type of person who is contemptuous of the suburbs, it means you don't have to worry about any of those little old people, because they'll just have to choose, Coke or Pepsi. But when you've got someone like a Mark Latham, it reminds them, no, you can have water or beer too.
Yeah, well, I was saying this the other day. Mark Latham is the most important political figure in Australia at the moment. He is the common sense candidate. One, I would be urging everyone in the Upper Hunter to be voting to get a One Nation candidate, whether it's Latham or someone else, but to get One Nation, because the Liberal Party, both federally and in New South Wales, have completely lost the plot. They need the common sense of people like Mark Latham to bring them back to the mainstream centre, instead of all this flirting with lefty garbage like we saw with Matt Keane and Malcolm Turnbull. More strength to Mark Latham. May One Nation run in the Upper Hunter and win.
I think you were. Did you go to the footy with Mark on the weekend, Joel?
Well, I was at the same football game, Paul.
Oh,
That's for sure. And I did happily have my photograph taken with Mark Latham. Can I just quickly correct something Bronwyn said? Coal mining and support for coal mining will be huge in the by-election, but the point here is that the Labor Party, the Nats, the Shitters and Fishers, and One Nation are all screaming support for the coal mining industry. So it's not necessarily going to be the determining factor. If Labor can persuade, and I think it's well placed to do so, that it's strongly supporting the coal mining industry,
Depends who they believe, Joel.
Maybe, as your Vox Pops just showed, people are also thinking about infrastructure. Now, Gladys has had 8 years to do something about the Muswellbrook and Singleton bypasses. No bulldozers have been seen. And, of course, both of them have real design problems where the off and on ramps are, and that's got the community really agitated. So the Nats are going to be on the catch-up there.